Power in Dragon Ball has always been something more than just numbers. In the earliest days, when Scouters could measure energy and Saiyans gauged each other's strength by reading numbers, it seemed simple, an objective metric to determine who was stronger, who would survive, who would dominate. Yet, even then, the series quietly suggested that power is never just a number. It is a feeling, a presence, a subtle resonance that can shift the tide of a battle before a single punch lands. From Goku's first adventures, through the battles against the Red Ribbon Army and King Piccolo, strength was something lived and sensed, not merely recorded. The Saiyan arrival marked a turning point. Vegeta and Nappa were terrifying not because their power could be calculated with a scouter, but because of what it represented. Raw, instinctual force, a combination of training, heritage, and savagery that defied simple metrics. Goku had grown through rigorous training, mentorship, and innate potential. But the Saiyans introduced a new dimension: adaptability under pressure, the ability to grow stronger mid-battle, to push beyond perceived limits. Here, the narrative began to emphasize that energy is fluid, relational, and deeply personal. One can measure strength, but one cannot fully anticipate how it will be expressed in combat, in instinct, in will. Frieza's saga expanded this lesson. Frieza himself epitomized the danger of precision combined with raw power. His transformations were a visible escalation, each form a testament to calculated restraint, unleashing greater output. And yet, Goku's ascent to Super Saiyan illustrated that emotional energy, passion, and determination can surpass even meticulous calculation. Power was now not only about training or measurement, it was about awakening potential, about breaking limits in the moment when necessity, emotion, and instinct converge. Numbers alone could not predict it. The android and cell arcs complicated the story further. Androids 17 and 18, with their seemingly static energy, were deceptive. Their ki could not be read easily, and their strength was precise, controlled, and lethal. Then came Cell, a being who absorbed the abilities of the strongest fighters, who embodied evolution itself. Here, Scouters, numbers, and even Goku's perception were insufficient. Victory depended on strategy, timing, understanding, and recognizing potential in ways that transcended raw measurement. Gohan's awakening to Super Saiyan 2 highlighted this principle. True strength is not just force. It is the perfect convergence of potential, will, and awareness. Majin Buu introduced yet another evolution. Buu's form was chaotic, unpredictable, and nearly impossible to quantify. Power in this context became a measure of resilience, adaptability, and creativity. Goku's Super Saiyan 3 form, while visually astonishing, carried limits: stamina, energy control, and timing. Even extraordinary strength requires balance and foresight. The Buu saga demonstrated that energy, while formidable, must be wielded thoughtfully. Unchecked power, even for the strongest, is transient without discipline and strategy. Then came Dragon Ball Super, where the very concept of power levels shifted into entirely new territory. Gods of destruction, angels, and mortals with godly ki demonstrated that numbers were no longer meaningful. Super Saiyan God was a state of refinement, a channeling of energy through focus and clarity, rather than raw force. It revealed a central truth. Ultimate strength is as much about control, perception, and harmony as it is about magnitude. The aura may glow, the ki may surge, but the heart of power is alignment. Goku's first confrontation with Beerus exemplified this principle. Raw numbers meant little in the face of disciplined, intentional energy. Super Saiyan Blue built upon this, blending Saiyan spirit with divine ki, demanding control and mastery. Vegeta, obsessed with surpassing Goku, learned that surpassing another is meaningless without internal mastery. Power was relational. It depended on awareness of self and opponent, on intuition and responsiveness. The tournament of power pushed these ideas further. Fighters from countless universes, with abilities that defied mortal comprehension, challenged every old notion of measurement. Jiren, Kayla, Caulifla, Toppo, and others illustrated that true power exists beyond quantification. It is felt, experienced, and honed through interaction and observation. Ultra instinct represented the apex of this evolution. Goku, in mastering it, achieved a state where action and thought separate, where the body moves perfectly in harmony with energy, where instinct supersedes calculation. Every strike, every defense, every motion becomes an expression of alignment, a reflection of universal flow. In this state, the lessons of decades are realized. Power is not merely destructive output. It is perception, timing, discipline, and spiritual attunement. The Saiyan obsession with numbers, scouters, and rankings becomes a relic of a simpler era, a prelude to the nuanced understanding of energy that defines the modern narrative. Even minor arcs, side battles, and new challenges illustrate the principle that Dragon Ball's power levels are not static or absolute. Moro, Granola, and other super-era threats demonstrate that strength depends on context, on understanding, and on the capacity to adapt. Energy may grow, but it must be directed, channeled, and harmonized with intent. Otherwise, potential, no matter how vast, becomes meaningless. Through all of these arcs, the story of Dragon Ball's power levels evolves from something quantifiable to something experiential. It is no longer about who is stronger in the sense of raw output, but about awareness, mastery, and alignment. Strength is relational and fluid. It grows in response to challenge, in harmony with instinct, and in the understanding of one's own limits and potential. From the Saiyan invasions to the divine conflicts of Super, the narrative teaches that the greatest power is not merely seen, counted, or measured. It is understood, experienced, and respected. And so, the earliest scouters, the obsession with numbers, the pride-driven competitions, all serve as a foundation for a deeper meditation. Dragon Ball's journey is not about power levels as numbers. It is about understanding the living, breathing nature of energy, the philosophy of instinct and control, and the continuous evolution of potential. Every transformation, every surge, every clash carries a lesson. Strength is not a destination, but a journey, flowing, adapting, and resonating endlessly with the universe. As the Dragon Ball narrative moved into the Android and Cell sagas, the concept of power became increasingly nuanced. The androids themselves were initially inscrutable, seemingly fixed in strength, yet capable of adapting and surprising even the most experienced fighters. Their Kai could not be sensed in conventional ways, and their abilities were precise, calibrated, and unyielding. Unlike the Saiyans, whose power often surged unpredictably through emotion or battle experience, the androids embodied controlled, relentless energy. They revealed that strength is not just about raw output, but also about consistency, strategy, and the ability to exploit moments of opportunity. In this sense, power became a conversation between fighter and opponent, a dynamic exchange that went far beyond what any scouter could quantify. Then came Cell, whose very existence blurred the lines between numbers and true potential. A culmination of the strongest fighter's abilities, Cell evolved in real time, absorbing energy and recalibrating his capabilities mid-battle. Here, power levels as a metric lost all meaning. Even Goku, with his understanding of Saiyan growth and Kai control, could only grasp part of the challenge. Cell's strength depended not merely on accumulation, but on adaptation, on the ability to respond to changing circumstances, to exploit weaknesses, and to push beyond perceived limits. Gohan's eventual Super Saiyan 2 transformation illustrated a similar truth. The greatest power often emerges not from preparation or calculation alone, but from the perfect alignment of emotion, instinct, and necessity. Majin Buu further complicated the story of strength. Buu's forms were chaotic, unpredictable, and extreme in their potential. From the fat, seemingly harmless incarnation to Kid Buu's unrestrained destructive power, Buu demonstrated that energy without discipline could be both overwhelming and vulnerable. Goku's Super Saiyan 3 form, while immensely powerful, was limited by stamina and energy consumption, a reminder that even tremendous force carries costs. The Buu saga underscored a central truth that would echo through Super. Power is not a simple measure. It is a balance, a question of how effectively one can control, apply, and endure it. Dragon Ball. Super transformed the very concept of strength once more. The introduction of gods, of destruction, angels, and mortals, with godly ki, rendered old measurements obsolete. Super Saiyan God marked the emergence of controlled, refined energy. Goku's first confrontation with Beerus emphasized that sheer force is insufficient. Precision, awareness, and the harmony of ki matter far more than numbers. Strength was no longer linear. It was relational, fluid, and philosophical. The presence of divine beings illustrated that ultimate power requires alignment with the universe itself, an attunement that transcends mere fighting ability. Super Saiyan Blue built upon this foundation, merging Saiyan energy with godly ki, demanding discipline, control, and understanding. Vegeta, in particular, embodied the tension between desire and mastery. Obsessed with surpassing Goku, he initially measured power in raw output and competitive dominance. Yet the narrative revealed that mastery and refinement often outweigh size alone. Battles became tests of control, awareness, and adaptability. Strength in this era was not absolute. It was contextual, relational, and dynamic. The Tournament of Power illustrated this principle most dramatically. Fighters from countless universes introduced abilities, techniques, and energy that defied conventional understanding. Jiren, whose sheer presence radiated overwhelming strength, demonstrated that ultimate power is not simply destructive. It is discipline, focus, and unwavering will. Goku's evolution to Ultra Instinct represented the apex of this philosophy. In this state, the body acts independently of conscious thought, moving with perfect timing, instinct, and awareness. It is not only a test of energy output, but a meditation on alignment. Ultra Instinct embodies Dragon Ball's deepest lesson. The essence of strength is in perception, responsiveness, and harmony, not in the largest numbers or most explosive attacks. Even beyond Goku and Vegeta, the series continued to explore alternative approaches to power. Fighters like Toppo, Kale, and Caulifla displayed strength in precision, unpredictability, and raw instinct. Moro, in later arcs, showcased consumption-based growth, emphasizing that accumulation alone does not equate to mastery. Granola's pursuit of vengeance illustrated that focus, intention, and strategy can rival raw energy. Together, these narratives present a coherent theme. Power is not merely an attribute. It is an evolving interaction between intent, ability, and perception. The evolution of ki itself reinforces this idea. Initially, ki was measurable, quantifiable, a resource for assessing strength. With the introduction of godly energy, ultra instinct, and multiversal threats, ki became a medium of perception, communication, and instinctual resonance. Fighters sense it, respond to it, and manipulate it as an extension of self. Battles are no longer simply exchanges of force, but dialogues of energy. Numbers, scouters, and superficial comparisons fail to capture this complexity. Strength is experiential, felt, and relational. In examining Dragon Ball's progression From Saiyan invasions through Super, a philosophical pattern emerges. Early arcs taught that power could be trained, pushed, and surpassed. Mid-series arcs demonstrated the importance of adaptation, instinct, and alignment with emotion. Super expanded these lessons to include precision, control, and attunement to universal flow. Every transformation, every escalation, every clash highlights the interplay between potential, perception, and mastery. Strength is not static. It is a living, evolving concept, intimately tied to awareness and experience. By the end of the tournament of power, Ultra Instinct stood as the clearest illustration of this principle. Goku's ability to act without thinking, to harmonize with energy, and to respond perfectly to the moment reflects the culmination of decades of thematic evolution. Power is no longer measured by output, but by harmony, alignment, and responsiveness. It is a reflection of self-mastery as much as external capability. In Part 2, we see that Dragon Ball has shifted from a tale of raw numbers to a meditation on instinct, control, and awareness. The androids, Cell, Bu, and the godly threats of Super collectively reveal that energy alone does not define power. True strength emerges from alignment with the self, perception of the environment, and the ability to respond fluidly. Numbers may measure output, but they cannot measure growth, insight, or instinct. This understanding reframes every fight, every transformation, and every surge of energy in Dragon Ball. From the earliest Saiyan battles to the universe-spanning conflicts of Super, the narrative reminds us that ultimate power is not simply an accumulation of force. It is awareness, mastery, and the capacity to evolve endlessly with experience. As we continue exploring Dragon Ball's evolving understanding of power, the Moro and Granola arcs in Super reveal yet another dimension of strength. Moro, a sorcerer who feeds on planet's energy, illustrates that raw accumulation is not mastery. He absorbs, grows, and expands, his power seemingly limitless, but it lacks harmony. He is reactive, parasitic, and chaotic, dependent on consumption rather than alignment. Against Goku, Vegeta, and the team, Moro's immense energy alone proves insufficient. Strategy, adaptability, and instinct surpass mere accumulation. The contrast between Moro's raw, chaotic power and Goku's ultra instinct mastery reinforces the core lesson of Dragon Ball. Strength is relational, experiential, and shaped by awareness, not just size. Granola, the lone survivor of the Cerealian people, pursues vengeance with precision and determination. Through careful preparation and a mystical contract, he achieves extraordinary strength, rivaling even godly levels. Yet his power is anchored to singular focus and intent. While devastating in combat, it carries inherent limitations, a narrow perspective, and a reliance on circumstances. The granola arc demonstrates that energy alone, even at its peak, cannot guarantee dominance. It must be tempered with foresight, flexibility, and an understanding of one's own potential and limitations. Here, Dragon Ball subtly meditates on the interplay between energy, strategy, and consciousness, reminding us that mastery is as much internal as it is external. In these arcs, we also see the evolution of ki manipulation. From basic blasts to godly energy, ki transforms from a measurable force into a medium of perception and instinct. Fighters sense one another, respond intuitively, and project influence without calculation. Energy becomes a language, an extension of self, a way to communicate presence, intention, and potential. The narrative emphasizes that true mastery is invisible, residing not in numbers or flashy techniques, but in the subtle interplay of awareness, timing, and alignment. Every clash, every counter, every burst of energy is a lesson in perception. Ultra instinct, already glimpsed in the tournament of power, reaches deeper significance here. Goku's autonomous movement demonstrates that ultimate power is not about strength alone, but about perfect resonance with the flow of battle. Every defensive move, every counter, every strike becomes natural, effortless, yet profoundly effective. The distinction is subtle. Raw power is observable. Ultra instinct is intangible, almost invisible, yet undeniable in its impact. It is mastery as meditation, control as instinct, and strength as harmony. In observing these developments, one understands that Dragon Ball's core narrative has shifted from measurement to understanding. Vegeta's journey parallels this evolution. His obsession with surpassing Goku is tempered by the recognition that mastery, control, and perception define true power. Super Saiyan. Blue and his own godly ki transformations illustrate the balance between ambition and refinement. Unlike Moro or Granola, Vegeta's strength is relational. It is shaped by rivalry, collaboration, and the continuous drive to improve. Power is no longer static. It responds to environment, opponent, and circumstance. The narrative subtly reinforces that energy is not absolute, and that awareness, adaptation, and insight determine outcomes as much as output. The Moro and Granola arcs also explore limitations. Even the strongest forms carry cost. Energy expenditure, stamina, and mental focus define the boundaries of potential. Moro's hunger, Granola's contract, and Goku's reliance on ultra instinct all underscore a central theme. Ultimate strength requires discipline, awareness, and respect for one's own limits. Power is dynamic, growing and retracting, fluctuating with intent, action, and circumstance. Every fighter's journey in Super emphasizes this balance, creating a narrative where the measure of strength is intertwined with wisdom and experience. Dragon Ball consistently meditates on this evolution. From Saiyan training and Gohan's emotional awakenings to divine energy and instinctual mastery. The arcs demonstrate that power is experiential, not merely numerical. It is relational, dynamic, and inseparable from the consciousness of the fighter. The series portrays energy as a living entity, a reflection of self, and a force that resonates with both intention and environment. This understanding transforms the concept of power from a static metric into a philosophy, a study of perception, timing, and alignment. Even secondary fighters, such as Toppo, Kale, and Caulifla, exemplify these principles. Their abilities highlight precision, unpredictability, and instinct as forms of power equal to, or in some cases surpassing, raw energy. Their struggles remind viewers that power is not only about magnitude, but also about application and understanding. Observing their growth reveals that Dragon Ball's treatment of strength is holistic. Energy, mind, and experience must converge for true mastery to emerge. In essence, Part 3 emphasizes the philosophical maturation of Dragon Ball's concept of power. Moro, Granola, and the Super Era transformations reveal that energy alone does not define outcomes. Awareness, mastery, alignment, and perception are central. Ultra Instinct becomes the symbolic culmination of this journey. Instinctual harmony as the truest form of strength. By observing these arcs, we recognize that Dragon Ball has transcended its early numeric obsession, offering a meditation on energy, control, and relational mastery. Strength, as presented here, is fluid. It grows with challenge, adapts with experience, and is ultimately inseparable from consciousness. The narrative encourages viewers to understand power as something living, evolving, and contextually defined. Numbers may quantify potential, but they cannot capture insight, instinct, or alignment. In these arcs, Dragon Ball teaches that true power is a harmony of energy, intention, and awareness, and that the greatest feats arise not from the largest key, but from the perfect attunement of self to universe, opponent, and moment. As Dragon Ball progresses through the Super Era, the nature of power continues to evolve in unexpected ways. Moro and Granola exemplify the delicate balance between energy, mastery, and strategy. Moro, who feeds on planet's energy to grow stronger, represents the dangers of accumulation without awareness. His strength seems limitless, but it is ultimately constrained by his inability to harmonize with the battle. Each new level of power brings new opportunities, but also new vulnerabilities. In contrast, Goku's Ultra Instinct demonstrates that strength rooted in awareness, perception, and instinct can surpass raw force. Here, the body and mind act as one, moving with perfect timing and harmony, illustrating that true power is relational and fluid rather than merely numerical. Granola's journey emphasizes the cost of singular focus. His extraordinary power, derived from a mystical contract and painstaking preparation, is precise, devastating, and nearly unmatched. Yet it is bounded by his intent and perspective, revealing that even peak strength is fragile when divorced from adaptability. The narrative suggests that energy, no matter how immense, requires flexibility, insight, and understanding to achieve its full potential. Dragon Ball teaches that mastery is not only a matter of output, but also of perception, strategy, and self-awareness. Vegeta's continued evolution mirrors these lessons. Obsessed with surpassing Goku, he learns that raw strength alone cannot define superiority. His godly Ki and Super Saiyan Blue transformations illustrate that control, refinement, and awareness are essential to wielding power effectively. Battles are no longer contests of numbers alone. They are tests of instinct, observation, and adaptability. Vegeta's journey reinforces that the true measure of strength is context-dependent, relational, and dynamic, shaped by both internal mastery and external circumstances. The Tournament of Power further exemplifies these principles. Fighters from multiple universes, each with extraordinary abilities, challenge conventional understanding of strength. Jiren, with his immense presence and overwhelming energy, initially seems unbeatable, yet he is ultimately tested by Goku's mastery of Ultra Instinct. This arc demonstrates that instinct, perception, and adaptability can surpass raw power. Every strike, every counter, and every movement becomes an expression of awareness and alignment, reinforcing that true strength is experiential and relational, rather than purely quantitative. Ultra Instinct, the pinnacle of this philosophy, represents a new paradigm. Goku's autonomous movements show that ultimate strength is not about domination or overwhelming output, but about perfect resonance with the flow of combat. Each action becomes natural, precise, and effortless, yet profoundly effective. It is a state of harmony where energy, perception, and instinct converge. Watching Ultra Instinct in action is like observing a river that flows around obstacles, fluid, inevitable, and transformative. It reflects Dragon Ball's core lesson that mastery is as much about subtle alignment as it is about magnitude. Even secondary characters illustrate this evolving understanding of power. Toppo, Kale, and Caulifla demonstrate that precision, unpredictability, and instinct can rival or exceed raw output. Strength is shown to be multidimensional, encompassing energy, strategy, perception, and adaptability. Dragon Ball emphasizes that power is a living, relational force, not simply a metric to be measured. Each battle, transformation, and energy surge reveals the interplay between potential, awareness, and execution. Ki itself evolves alongside the characters. Once measurable and predictable, it now serves as a medium of instinct, perception, and resonance. Fighters sense energy, respond intuitively, and manipulate it in ways that defy calculation. The shift from scouters to godly Kai and instinctual mastery signals a philosophical transformation. Power is inseparable from awareness, intuition, and alignment. Battles become dialogues of energy, reflections of skill, perception, and intent, rather than contests of sheer magnitude. Dragon Ball repeatedly underscores the importance of balance, discipline, and cost. Moro's consumption, Granola's contract, and Goku's use of Ultra Instinct all highlight that strength carries limitations. Stamina, energy control, and focus define potential. Mastery requires understanding one's abilities and respecting their boundaries. From the Saiyan arcs to the divine conflicts of Super, the narrative stresses that energy alone cannot guarantee victory. Perception, awareness, and adaptability are equally essential. Through these developments, the series' philosophy of power crystallizes. From early Saiyan battles to divine transformations, Dragon Ball presents strength as relational, dynamic, and experiential. Energy grows with challenge, adapts with experience, and flourishes in alignment with the self and the universe. True power is not defined by numbers or scouter readings, but by instinct, awareness, and harmony. Every clash, every transformation, and every surge of ki embodies this principle, guiding fighters and viewers alike toward a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be strong. Thus, Part 4 meditates on the intricate evolution of power in Dragon Ball. Moro, Granola, Ultra Instinct, and divine transformations collectively teach that strength is alive, adaptive, and inseparable from consciousness. Numbers can measure output, but they cannot capture insight, alignment, or instinct. The ultimate lesson remains. Mastery arises from harmony, awareness, and understanding. And the most profound feats of energy emerge not from magnitude alone, but from alignment with perception, intent, and the flow of battle. As we move deeper into the super arcs, Dragon Ball continues to redefine what it means to be powerful, blending philosophy with spectacle. One of the most striking lessons comes from the evolving dynamic between Goku, Vegeta, and their universe-level opponents. Jiren, a warrior whose raw strength seems unmatched, challenges every assumption about measurement and supremacy. His immense energy radiates absolute dominance, yet even he is not invincible. What makes Jiren formidable is not just his sheer output, but his discipline, focus, and awareness. He has honed his body and mind to a level where instinct and precision guide his every action, echoing the series' repeated lesson that mastery, not just magnitude, determines the outcome of conflict. Ultra Instinct emerges as the pinnacle of this principle. Goku's ability to move without conscious thought, to react instinctively and flawlessly, demonstrates that ultimate strength is relational. It is not the sum of energy alone, but the harmony between perception, timing, and intent. In combat, this mastery allows him to respond perfectly to every attack, to anticipate without thinking, and to strike with precision and impact. Every clash becomes a meditation, a dialogue of energy and awareness, rather than a mere contest of power levels. The series repeatedly emphasizes that instinct, alignment, and mastery can surpass even overwhelming force. Vegeta's growth parallels and contrasts Goku's path. Obsessed with surpassing Goku, Vegeta initially seeks strength through raw output and competitive determination. Yet his experiences in Super reveal that power divorced from awareness is incomplete. His mastery of godly ki and the refinement of his techniques illustrate that discipline, understanding, and strategic application are essential. Vegeta's journey emphasizes that even a fighter with immense raw energy must align mind, body, and perception to achieve true dominance. Strength is shown as relational, contextual, and deeply tied to insight, not only to numbers or explosive output. The Moro saga deepens this exploration. Moro, whose power grows through consumption, demonstrates the pitfalls of unbalanced accumulation. He expands endlessly, yet his strength is reactive, lacking the harmony of understanding and instinct that defines the series' most refined fighters. Moro's ultimate defeat is not solely due to a lack of energy, but a lack of perception and strategic alignment. Goku, Vegeta, and their allies overcome him by combining instinct, foresight, and teamwork, reinforcing Dragon Ball's persistent theme. Mastery and awareness can surpass even the most terrifying displays of raw power. Granola's arc further complicates the definition of strength. Granola attains near-godly levels through precise calculation, intense training, and a mystical contract. His strength, while immense, carries inherent limitations. It is focused, deliberate, and extremely effective, yet it is bounded by circumstance and intent. The narrative highlights that raw energy, no matter how extreme, is insufficient without adaptability and perception. Granola's story reminds viewers that power is not an absolute measure, but an interaction between potential, environment, and consciousness. Across these arcs, ki itself evolves from a quantifiable resource to a medium of perception, communication, and instinctual resonance. Early in the series, scouters and numeric comparisons offered a sense of hierarchy. But in the Super era, energy becomes experiential. Fighters sense and interpret it, responding instinctively rather than through measurement alone. Every aura, every fluctuation, every defensive move communicates intent and potential. This shift underscores the series' philosophical maturation. True power lies not in magnitude, but in alignment, awareness, and mastery of both self and environment. The tournament of power serves as a culmination of these lessons. Combatants from multiple universes display unprecedented abilities and energy forms. Each fighter demonstrates that strength is multidimensional, shaped by instinct, perception, adaptability, and strategy. Jiren, Toppo, Kale, Caulifla, and others show that raw energy is only part of the equation. Ultra instinct, as exhibited by Goku, crystallizes the principle. The most potent power is an emergent property of mastery, harmony, and responsiveness, rather than merely numerical output. Dragon Ball's exploration of power consistently emphasizes balance and cost. Moro's energy consumption, Granola's contractual limitations, and the demands of Ultra Instinct illustrate that immense strength carries inherent consequences. Stamina, energy control, and mental focus define the boundaries of potential. The narrative reinforces that mastery is not simply a matter of raw output, but also of understanding, perception, and strategic application. True strength emerges when energy, insight, and awareness converge. Even secondary fighters illuminate this philosophy. Toppo, with his disciplined, godly energy, Kale, whose transformations channel raw instinct, and Caulifla, whose Saiyan adaptability mirrors Goku's, reveal that mastery is relational and contextual. Strength is a living, dynamic force, shaped by circumstance and refined through experience. Battles are not merely contests of power. They are explorations of instinct, perception, and alignment. Dragon Ball frames energy as both a tool and a reflection of consciousness, encouraging a nuanced appreciation of what it truly means to be strong. In reflecting on these arcs, one can see that Dragon Ball has matured from a story of measurable power levels into a meditation on energy, mastery, and perception. From Saiyan training and emotional awakenings to godly transformations and ultra instinct, the narrative consistently teaches that true strength is relational, fluid, and inseparable from awareness. Energy grows with challenge, adapts with experience, and flourishes in alignment with self and universe. Numbers may quantify potential, but they cannot capture insight, instinct, or alignment. Thus, Part 5 emphasizes that Dragon Ball's ultimate message about power transcends simple measurement. Moro, Granola, Ultra Instinct, and divine transformations illustrate that mastery is the product of awareness, alignment, and understanding. True power is relational, dynamic, and experiential, emerging not from magnitude alone, but from the harmony of perception, intent, and application. Every battle, transformation, and surge of ki embodies this principle, guiding both characters and viewers toward a deeper understanding of strength. As we continue exploring Dragon Ball Super, it becomes increasingly clear that strength is not merely a matter of raw energy, but an intricate interplay of perception, mastery, and context. Goku's journey exemplifies this philosophy. From his earliest encounters with Saiyans and Namekians to his godly transformations, he has consistently demonstrated that instinct, awareness, and alignment are as essential as raw output. Ultra instinct is the ultimate expression of this principle, a state in which the body moves freely, unbound by conscious thought, responding perfectly to every fluctuation in combat. In this way, Dragon Ball illustrates that the truest form of power is relational. It exists not as a number, but as an emergent property of skill, perception, and experience. Vegeta's path complements this idea. Initially driven by pride and rivalry, his evolution shows that discipline and refinement are essential to wielding power effectively. Super Saiyan Blue and his mastery of godly ki represent not only increases in energy, but also the refinement of intent, precision, and strategic application. Vegeta understands that overwhelming strength is only effective when it is harmonized with perception and awareness. His victories, as well as his failures, emphasize that energy alone is insufficient. Mastery requires alignment of body, mind, and instinct. The Moro arc reinforces these lessons in dramatic fashion. Moro's immense power stems from consumption, absorbing planets, energy, and life itself. But it remains reactive, dependent, and ultimately unbalanced. His defeat is less a reflection of insufficient energy than a demonstration that uncontrolled accumulation without awareness is unsustainable. Goku and Vegeta's ability to counter Moro rests not on a numerical advantage, but on a combination of instinct, strategy, and alignment with their own energy. This contrast highlights Dragon Ball's enduring theme. True mastery transcends magnitude, blending energy with insight, adaptability, and timing. Granola's story further deepens this meditation on power. His careful training and contract grant him nearly godlike abilities, yet his strength is inherently conditional. It depends on singular focus, preparation, and circumstance. Despite this, Granola's effectiveness in combat illustrates that precision, strategy, and mastery of energy can rival raw accumulation. His arc reminds viewers that power is multidimensional. It is not only a measure of output, but also of adaptability, perception, and situational awareness. The most potent fighters are those who understand both their own energy and the flow of the battle around them. Dragon Ball Super consistently emphasizes the evolution of Ki. Once easily quantified, energy becomes increasingly complex, serving as both a measure of strength and a medium of perception. Fighters can sense each other's ki, interpret intent, and react instinctively. Energy itself becomes a language, conveying emotion, strategy, and instinct. This evolution mirrors the series' thematic shift. Power is no longer solely numeric. It is relational, dynamic, and tied to awareness. Every clash, every burst, and every defensive maneuver embodies this principle. The Tournament of Power provides a vivid demonstration of these concepts. Combatants from multiple universes exhibit unprecedented abilities, pushing the limits of energy, instinct, and perception. Jiren, with his overwhelming power, initially appears unbeatable, yet he is tested by Goku's mastery of ultra instinct. The tournament underscores the idea that instinct, perception, and adaptability can surpass sheer output. Every movement and every decision becomes an expression of awareness, showing that true power is inseparable from the understanding and mastery of one's self and surroundings. Even secondary characters illustrate Dragon Ball's nuanced view of strength. Toppo's disciplined use of godly Kai, Kale's instinctual transformations, and Caulifla's adaptive Saiyan energy all highlight that mastery is relational and context-dependent. Energy is not merely force, it is the dynamic interplay of potential, perception, and strategy. The series repeatedly demonstrates that effective power combines output, awareness, and instinct, forming a triad in which each component amplifies the others. Balance and cost remain central to Dragon Ball's philosophy of power. Moro's energy hunger, Granola's contractual limits, and Goku's ultra instinct all demonstrate that immense strength carries consequences. Stamina, focus, and mental alignment define boundaries. The series consistently emphasizes that true mastery is holistic. It requires understanding the interplay of energy, instinct, and perception. A fighter may wield extraordinary power, but without awareness and control, even godly strength can be overcome. By examining these arcs, it becomes evident that Dragon Ball's portrayal of power has matured. Early scouter readings and numeric comparisons have been replaced by a more sophisticated understanding. Strength is fluid, relational, and experiential. Energy grows and shifts with challenge, adapts to circumstance, and flourishes when aligned with self and environment. Numbers may provide a baseline, but they cannot convey instinct, alignment, or mastery. Every surge of ki, every transformation, and every battle reflects the living, dynamic nature of power. Part 6 reinforces the series' philosophical evolution. Moro, Granola, Ultra Instinct, and godly transformations collectively show that mastery, perception, and alignment define true strength. Raw energy alone is insufficient. It is the integration of output, awareness, and instinct that produces the most profound effects. Dragon Ball's ultimate lesson is that power is not a static measure, but a living, evolving force shaped by experience, insight, and harmony. Every fighter, every battle, and every transformation embodies this principle, guiding both characters and viewers toward a deeper understanding of what it truly means to be strong. As we reach the conclusion of this exploration into Dragon Ball's understanding of power, it becomes clear that the Super Era has transformed what it means to be strong. From Goku's Ultra Instinct to Vegeta's refined godly ki, from Moro's consumption to Granola's precision, Dragon Ball presents strength as relational, dynamic, and deeply intertwined with perception. Power is no longer a simple number to be measured on a scouter. It is a living, evolving force shaped by awareness, experience, and instinct. Every battle is a meditation, every clash a reflection of mastery and understanding, and every transformation a new expression of the potential that lies within energy itself. Goku's mastery of Ultra Instinct exemplifies the culmination of this philosophy. It is not the magnitude of his ki that defines him, but the perfect alignment of mind, body, and perception. Every movement becomes instinctive, every counter flawless, and every strike precisely timed. Watching Ultra Instinct in action is like observing nature itself, fluid, inevitable, and harmonized. This transformation, while visually spectacular, carries a profound lesson. True power arises not from overwhelming energy, but from alignment, intuition, and mastery over oneself. Vegeta's continued evolution emphasizes the relational and adaptive nature of power. His Super Saiyan, blue and godly ki, are not mere displays of output. They are the product of discipline, observation, and refined technique. Vegeta's growth demonstrates that even the most immense energy requires mastery to be effective. Strength is contextual. It responds to opponents, circumstances, and strategy. By combining power with insight, discipline, and adaptability, Vegeta embodies the principle that mastery is the ultimate amplifier of energy. The Moro and Granola arcs further illustrate the cost and consequence inherent in great power. Moro's hunger, his relentless consumption of energy, ultimately leads to instability and vulnerability. Granola's carefully constructed power, while precise and devastating, carries limitations tied to circumstance and intent. These stories reinforce that energy alone cannot guarantee victory. True strength demands awareness, adaptability, and an understanding of one's own limits. Dragon Ball continually reminds us that mastery is both a responsibility and a path requiring focus, discipline, and perception. Secondary characters highlight the multifaceted nature of power as well. Toppo's godly ki, Kale's instinctual transformations, Caulifla's adaptive Saiyan energy, and other warriors demonstrate that mastery is not solely about magnitude. Precision, unpredictability, intuition, and relational awareness often prove decisive. Power is fluid. It shifts with circumstance, responding to environment, strategy, and alignment. The series consistently portrays energy as a living, relational force, emphasizing that true mastery integrates all aspects of skill, perception, and intent. The philosophical evolution of Dragon Ball's depiction of power can be traced from the early Scouter readings and numeric comparisons to the intricate interplay of Kai, instinct, and mastery in Super. The series moves from quantifiable measures to qualitative understanding. Strength is not static. It grows, adapts, and responds. Each battle, each transformation, and each surge of ki embodies this dynamic, demonstrating that ultimate power emerges from harmony between energy, perception, and action. Even as we consider the most awe-inspiring feats of energy, Dragon Ball emphasizes the subtle, almost invisible elements that define mastery. Ultra Instinct is a meditation, a perfect attunement of body and mind. Vegeta's refined godly ki is the product of observation, adaptation, and discipline. Moro and Granola remind us that raw energy, while impressive, is incomplete without awareness and strategy. Every arc, every fight, and every transformation reinforces the idea that true strength is relational, dynamic, and deeply experiential. Dragon Ball also teaches that power carries cost. Energy is finite, focus is fragile, and mastery demands sacrifice. Stamina, discipline, and alignment define the boundaries of potential. Goku's reliance on ultra instinct, Moro's hunger, Granola's contractual constraints all highlight the delicate balance between potential and consequence. This recurring lesson emphasizes that mastery is not a static achievement, but an ongoing process, one that requires continuous awareness, adaptability, and intentionality. Ultimately, Dragon Ball presents power as a living philosophy rather than a mere metric. Energy grows with challenge, adapts to circumstance, and flourishes in alignment with self, opponent, and environment. True strength cannot be measured solely by numbers. It is shaped by perception, instinct, awareness, and application. Every fighter, every battle, and every transformation embodies this principle, demonstrating that mastery is the truest amplifier of potential. From the Saiyan Saga to Dragon Ball Super, the narrative has consistently illustrated that strength is multidimensional. Raw energy, while impressive, is insufficient alone. Perception, mastery, instinct, and alignment elevate energy into something transcendent. Ultra, instinct, godly ki, and instinctual transformations are the culmination of this philosophy, showing that power is as much internal and relational as it is external and measurable. Dragon Ball invites viewers to understand strength not as a number, but as a living, evolving force, reflective of consciousness, intent, and awareness. As we conclude this meditation on Dragon Ball power levels, it is clear that the ultimate lesson is timeless. Strength is fluid, relational, and experiential. Energy, perception, and instinct converge to create mastery. And the most profound feats of power emerge not from magnitude alone,